So this is a gouache painting, the start of one, and you can tell right off, I guess you can pretty much from this pencil drawing, that my heart wasn't really in this to begin with. I had a hard time getting into this painting for whatever reason. I'm not sure, but usually, for me, what it comes down to is could be a few things. One, just being committed to something that I know I have very little time for. It's very hard for me to get started, and there are some things that are going to be really complicated in this small painting that presented a bit of a challenge. And I guess that I hate starting a painting and having to stop often. And this painting actually took some time to do. But right off the bat, like I said, my heart wasn't in it. I had to get in it. I had to allow for the discipline to kick in. I've been committed to drawing and painting on a daily basis, and especially taking this time in my lunch hour at work to go ahead and do something. And I've kept the Gouache Sketchbook for that very reason. Sometimes I would do something else, like I would break it up and want to do a pencil drawing or some other medium. But most of the time, I enjoy doing these gouache paintings, and it could be a reason like that I really didn't feel like getting into this painting initially. But for whatever the reason is, um, you know what? It's the discipline, the routine that I have of drawing and painting on a daily basis that kept me going. That I just I don't even think about it really. I started painting even though I didn't really feel like painting at the time because I like I said, maybe it was that I knew that this was going to be a little bit complicated, and I didn't want to start and stop. I think if I have a time or a big chunk of time where I'm painting, I would enjoy that more because I can just keep on working. Now, it doesn't always work out that I would what would come out of that would be a great painting or drawing or whatever. I just feel more comfortable having that much more time, regardless. But and sometimes not having a lot of time, um, for some reason I can do better work sometimes. But regardless, like I said, it's the discipline that this a commitment that I have beforehand, because then I don't really have to think about it. I don't have to think about whether or not I'm going to paint, or all I got to do is think about what am I going to paint or what am I going to draw, because I've already committed myself to drawing or painting on this hour on my lunch break. So I know that it's something that I stick to religiously. And um, I know people have a problem. I've heard people complain about the whole idea of having that type of discipline, having that type of mentality where you decide ahead of time that you are going to be committed to drawing and painting daily. If some people feel that, well, that's too much pressure, it kills the fun, or whatever the reason, or they can do good work without being so committed. And you know what? I'm not saying that a person can't do good work without being committed to this type of discipline. But what I will say is that it's definitely a sure thing that someone will get better by having this kind of discipline. Now, you can still be good. You may not be as good as you can be. And if you can live with that, that's fine. That go ahead and do that. And that's not to say that, uh, well, eventually, I was going to say that that's not to say that, what, there are some people who are not committed to the discipline, who are very talented and so forth, and can do good work. And there are those who are not as talented. but they had that commitment. And what happens is eventually that person who's not as talented winds up growing in leaps and bounds beyond what beyond what someone who relies on his talent alone would be able to do. So definitely this discipline, and you know what, discipline comes in just about anything that you want to do well. If you are a musician, you got to practice. If you're a dancer, you got to practice. You got to have the discipline, and you got to put in the time and so forth. If you are, just you go down the line, any sort of arts or any sort of discipline in terms of sports or whatever, where you strive to be good at, you have to put in the time to practice. And the more that you do, the better you'll be. That's just the science of it, you know. So you know what, art sort of kind of becomes such an emotional thing where people are going on impulses more on just discipline. And I'm not saying just discipline, but you know what? The whole idea of not having to train or not having to work hard to and so forth, I don't believe in that. I believe that, you know what, there should be some kind of discipline, some kind of study, some kind of goal that you have, that you want to be better than you are at the present time. Like, you know what, you can accept your level right now where you are. Like when I started this sketchbook, and I started the first page, and I told myself that from this point on, I'm going to strive to do the next painting better than the last one that I've done. And I keep pushing myself that way. It doesn't always work out, but the mindset is there where I'm trying to get better at what it is that I'm doing. So having this discipline, I'll tell you that eventually what happened is that once I settled in and I started this painting, and then I became committed to it. Then I wanted to fight for the painting. I started caring about how the painting comes out. So I went beyond that initial sketch, and I made the corrections as I went along, and because you know what, once I get into it, I start thinking about solving whatever problems that are there. How I'm going to get from that initial pencil drawing to what it is that I'm trying to do with this painting. I had to give myself a direction. You know what, I had a direction because I had an idea of what I wanted to do with this. I took this reference photo myself, and what it is that the person is just so interesting. So I know it was something that I wanted to do, but the thing is that there was a lot of not detail. I guess you can call it detail, but there's a lot of stuff happening in his face, and being able to organize that, being able to make sense out of all of that, and work that into the painting was a bit of a challenge, and it was something that I wanted to do, and just how to work in the amount of detail that was necessary without it becoming a distraction. That the parts would all equal a whole, and they wouldn't call I wouldn't call attention to each individual part or detail, but it would work as a whole. But it would be there. The description of this person's face would be there because it was interesting to me. And there were other things. I like doing the folds in the coat and so forth, and other things that I wanted to work on as I kept working on this. But all of those became more and more in focus as I continued to work on this, and I wanted to make this painting work out. So the beginning of this was the beginning of this painting here was me just laying down the colors after I did the initial sketch, and just trying to even here I'm not worried about uh, um, the drawing too much, because I'm trying to cover up the space. I'm beginning to draw with the brush and make corrections with the brush. But most of all, I'm trying to lay down color on this page so that I can paint on top of it. So everything here is an approximation. You know, I'm just trying to organize. Trying to organize. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed this up, and if I every now and then I'll just interject and say some things as far as this painting goes. But I'll speed this up right now. So now this is the second day I'm working on this, and I pretty much covered the entire page, and I spent the whole day here on this whole second day working on his face. I wanted to go back into it. Now, at this point is when this painting turned into something worth fighting for me. That I saw something in this that I can make something happen, and it was still a challenge, but it was something that something that I felt more comfortable with. So after I worked through that initial feeling of really not being into this painting on that first day, by the end of that first day, I was invested in it. I wanted to finish this, and I wanted to do as good a job as I can. So right here, the second day, of course, you see the result of that first day, and I'm going to spend this day working on the face. Now the day is really just an hour. When I say second day, first day, third day, fourth day, I'm just talking about one single lunch hour, and not even that, because grabbed a little snack to eat, prepared. Prepared everything to start and so forth, and what I did was I simply closed the door in the room that I work in, and I have the privacy to just go ahead and paint this for that hour. Every now and then, someone would have the key and they come in and so forth, but most of the time I'm undisturbed as far as being able to paint, being able to work. Nobody disturbs me. And still, when they come in, they respect that space that I have. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to work on this face. I'm going to try and get make sense out of all the details that I see in this face, and try to indicate that without crossing every T and dotting every I, as my teacher used to say. I'm going to make this thing work as a whole and not try and call attention to each individual part. right here, this is the beginning of the third day actually, and you can see that I took this pretty far. I'm gonna work half the day on the face, and I'm going to finish that up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start working on the other parts of the painting. You see, I've also filled in some of the background and indicated, like, he's in the subway, he's in the seat, and so forth. So I just an indication to give him some kind of concrete background to be in, a world to be in. But other than that, I'm just gonna try and make sense out of this head, and try and give an accurate description of this person, but without overloading it with too much distracting detail. So now I carried the guy's face to a point where I feel okay with it. I'm going to come back and forth to it and touch it up. But in the meantime, there's a whole bunch of this painting that is screaming to get done. There's, his sleeve, or the coat, and the wrinkles on the coat and so forth. The hands I haven't even started on. I indicated things here and there. So I'm going to go ahead and go into these other areas to finish the painting. But you can see, like I said, how much, how invested I am in this painting now, and feeling a lot happier with it, or at least I don't know if you would know without me telling you, but I'm feeling a lot happier with it, and I'm feeling like this is something that's not a waste of time, that I can invest my time in, and hopefully come out with a good painting. But that all comes from the discipline, the sticking to it, the pushing myself, or what, it isn't even pushing myself, because once you get into, see, the thing with the discipline is, once you get into the routine, once you get into the idea that, this is something that you're going to do, you set aside time for. It's like you set aside time to eat. You eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Or you whatever meals you have, but you set time aside for that, because you need to do it. And now you can argue that, hey, you need to eat to stay alive, but you don't need to paint to stay alive. This is true, but for me, and I guess for anyone who would call himself an artist, this painting for an artist is kind of what it, part of what it means to be alive. You have this thing that you have to do, that's a part of you, that you there's a way that you communicate to the rest of the world. The things that you do. And so this is something that while I can live and breathe without it, the quality of my life would be diminished without it. So it's something that's important to me. So, but and having that discipline helps me to maintain this, to do this in a healthy way, in terms of something that's making me grow as an artist. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on discipline. I don't know if I know I've heard people made comments about it on different videos and or blogs and so forth, and people have differing opinions on it. Like, you don't have to be so disciplined, you don't have to be so committed, you don't, but you know what? For me, this is what makes sense. And from what I see from artists who are really successful, who really, and you know what? I measure success in a number of ways, but one of the main ways I measure it is just it shows in their work. Not necessarily whether were successful as far as making money and having a successful career. Some people are viewed as successful because it's assumed that they have a successful career because you see their artwork in magazines and so forth. But that's not necessarily true. Now, in terms of having the financial success and being comfortable and stuff like that, it's a very hard thing to achieve. And it takes discipline. So you need discipline in so many different areas of your life. But I'm looking at just what I find appealing in the work itself. But you may have thoughts on discipline and what you believe is necessary to grow as an artist, or what I think that I think, but for my money, I believe having this commitment is the way to go. So anyway, like I did before, I'm going to speed up this video. You can see that I am working on these sleeves or these wrinkles, and again, it's just like working on like the work I've done on the face. I try to pick out what's best and not like I'm not trying to do a complete rendering of the photo that I'm working from. I'm trying to give an indication of these wrinkles. I'm not trying to give like a perfect rendering of the photo. But it's like the face. I'm going to try and keep it to what's important, and not try to put every wrinkle that I see. Just what's important. So it's a lot of putting stuff down, taking stuff out, adding things, taking out, until I arrive at what I feel comfortable with. So let me speed this up, and you can see the process without having the pain of looking at every brushstroke. this is the fourth and final day, or the fourth and final hour that I'm going to be working on this painting. But actually, after this day, actually, I took it home and I worked on it a little bit more to just round it out. But so what I spent the day doing is just putting the finishing touches on things, just going over the painting and making corrections, small corrections here and there, finishing out some areas like the legs, the pants, and the seat and so forth that he's sitting in, and just touching up here and there. Finishing some areas, some small areas that I left for last, and touching up here and there. So this last day actually goes by pretty smoothly, and at this point it's just fun. It's just fun, and because I worked the painting to a point where I feel okay about it, and so at this point I'm just trying to finish it off, and like I said, going from a point where I was totally not into this painting, that I didn't have a good start and it didn't look hopeful, but there was something interesting about the subject, so maybe that's what kept me in, apart from the discipline, or that's what I helped focus on once I decided that, what, I'm going to do what I always do, and that is paint on this hour, and not break from that routine that I had set up for myself. That's pretty much it. So like I said, discipline, thoughts on discipline, say something, leave remarks or whatever. I'm going to speed this video up to the end, and then when this painting's finally finished, I'll show it to you, and then make my final remarks then. So here's the final painting. I took it home and I put some final touches on it before I closed the book on this one. But you know, just wanted to do some final things, which I didn't record. But you know, it was basically the same as, you know, as you seen the painting progress throughout this video. Just adding things, taking things out, simplifying different areas, just making whatever small corrections that I need to make sense out of all of this. So I hope you enjoyed this this video, and I will be back with another video soon. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.